In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to use DLSS and enhance your gaming experience on 4K monitors. What made me want to make this video is I've been seeing a lot of people complain about performance and in games these days, and I play a lot of older games, so I know exactly what they're talking about. But for this video, I'm just going to show you how you can manage graphic settings in your games and how to think about it, so that way you can maximize your gaming experience and graphics potential without suffering in both performance and quality. So the game I'm going to be using is called Mafia. Mafia Old Country, right? That's the new Mafia game that just came out, so that's what I'm going to be using as an example. So I have it muted right now. So let me show you how the game looks. So you can see the FPS in the corner. I'm using a RTX 4070, so this should be good. So on RTX 4070, I'm running the game at 4K, right? You can see the visual quality here, right? So you can say definitely on a mouse and keyboard, this is not the most efficient way to play games like this. So I'm going to start off with talking about how to think about how you play the game, because the problem that people don't understand is that most games these days are made for console. So on the console experience, of course, they won't be getting a solid 60 FPS anyway, but at this visual fidelity, even more, the PlayStation 5, even the PlayStation 5 Pro might be in the same FPS range if it has a quality mode, because I don't have it on PlayStation, so I wouldn't know. But still, this is still pretty clean and sharp. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna just move around a little bit so you can see how the game looks, show you as the max graphics, and let's take a look at the settings. So how I think about it is, what kind of game is it? It's a third-person shooter game, right? So as a third-person game, it's primarily made for controller, because the kind of movements you're going to be encountering in this game has a lot of aim shaking, has a lot of sway and camera sway and all these other effects on it. So like, it's not the ideal mouse and keyboard game to begin with. So if you really want to utilize your gaming experience for this specific game, you need a controller, because controller is momentum based with the way you control the camera. So what you're gonna do is plug in your controller, and the experience is night and day between mouse and keyboard. And this mouse and keyboard is designed for fast-paced gaming, so flicking and all these things, which require, my opinion, anything above 100 FPS, or at least, to be fair, 90, right? So anything below 90 is a controller experience, because controllers, they're designed for televisions, which are generally in the range of 60 hertz and now 120 hertz. So moving around, so I'm gonna bring back the game. Now this is controller movement right here. So you notice that the speed I'm rotating right now, I'm gonna put my camera on here. Camera's gone, but it's fine. So I'm using the controller right now. You can tell by the input, right? So it's a PlayStation controller. So 40 frames, you're not gonna notice the screen tearing when you're playing with a controller, because the controller, you're not moving as fast per second as the mouse. Well, then let me show you how it looks on the mouse. This is how it looks on the mouse. I'll probably later on edit this video with camera recording, but for now, you can probably see it already. So there's ways to go around this, even when you're playing on mouse and keyboard, and I'll show you right now. So you go into your settings, options, settings, graphics, right? So I would say anybody who's getting into PC gaming needs to know what all these things are, because it'll, even if the games are not as optimized as they should be, and they're also using Unreal Engine 5, which is very heavy for no reason. There's a reason, but I'm not going to explain in this video. What you want to do is firstly determine what your resolution of your monitor is, and I use a 4K monitor. It also goes to 1440p at 240 hertz both ways. So if you really want to, maximize both the performance and visual fidelity, there's one gift that came out of this graphics card's nightmare, and that's NVIDIA DLSS. So if you want to, I'll say if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, it's really important to really utilize DLSS whenever you can. So that way you can always get the best visually looking game. And I'm gonna go back into it here, but you can see I'm already hit like touching close to my VRAM budget right here. So, you know, well, I'm definitely trying to push it. I like to play games at their max graphics settings. I don't give a fuck what FPS is like, or else it's a game like Doom. And we're gonna get into that in a different video. But for now, what you want to utilize DLSS. Then if you have a AMD graphics card, then FSR. Upscaling is so underrated. I'm gonna make a separate video, but for this specifically, upscaling is a gift. So upscaling helps you. Let's just pretend that you're running a game at 1080p, right? Which is in a 4K screen, blurry and small, right? It uses DLSS uses AI to take that 1080p image and bring it up to 4K or 1440p. But that's the idea of what upscaling is. Then what DLSS does is that it takes your base resolution, then depending on what upscaling mode you put it, quality, balance, performance, that's just a percentage of how far it's going to bring your resolution from 4K down. So what DLSS does is that it takes your 4K image and brings it down to like maybe 1440p, then upscales it with AI to back to 4K. So technically it's just rendering a lower resolution image and bringing it up, you know what I mean, without all the technicalities. So first thing is setting your DLSS. So if you, for a single player game like this, first notes, right? So let's just pretend like there's 3 notes you have to make in every game you play, right? You're gonna have what kind of game it is, a single player, not multiplayer. And we've already covered that too, the style of gameplay it is. So that means this is a controller game. So you're gonna think about it like, oh, I'm gonna be using a controller in this game because it's not designed for mouse and keyboard, even if it supports it. Then 3 is frame rate. So if your frame rate is below 60, to be honest, for mouse and keyboard, if it's below 80 or 90, you probably shouldn't be playing on a mouse and keyboard. You should probably upgrade your computer, to be honest. But you know what I mean? That I'm here. This video is made for if you're looking for high quality gameplay. So even 30 FPS right now on a controller is not bad if you're gonna be leaning back. You know, in a game like Apex, that's just stupid. You're not gonna enjoy that game. So let's go back to settings. So we've already done our 3 notes, right? Type of game, you know, inputs, frame rate. So, and I guess the 4th one is your screen resolution, right? So now let's go back into it. So this is my thought process when setting up like a new game like this. So I you know, full screen borderless doesn't matter anymore because of DirectX 12. So borderless is the same now. Quality preset is always going to be custom because we're going to change that. I have everything on max. everything is maxed out here. So there's ways to go around it, right? So I already explained DLSS. This helps us upscale the image, so that way we can get maximum performance, right? I like to put it on quality, so that way we can keep the most, you can say the most sharpness of the image, so that way you're not getting blurry screen. Then sharpness, that's up to you if the game seems a bit blurry, but personally I like keeping things at quality, because if most of you have a 1440p monitor, you know, when you put it on quality mode, it's just taking that 1440p resolution to like 1080. You know what I mean? And if you put on balance, it's probably just bringing it down even more to like 720p, and that's why you're gonna get a blurry image. So if you have like anything upwards of a 3060, you know what I mean, you're not really worried about 1080p, really. Because I used to use a 2060, and the 2060 performed very well in games like the finals and everything at full resolution, even no DLSS and high graphics, and you can still pull out a good game. So that's not really a problem. So when you're upscaling, you have to consider the resolution. So let's go back into it. So now we know we're getting 40 FPS in Mafia. When you scroll down, you know, if you're getting a blurry screen, you just up the sharpness a little bit. Frame generation, I'm not a fan of that. You know, it's a new thing they want to do to integrate frames in between each frame to make it feel smoother, but I don't like that. I like to have a raw image. And motion blur. Motion blur is very tricky. It's a very tricky option, because like the devs like to put it in there to pretty much give you the illusion of like smoothness. And in my point of view, you can use that smoothness to enhance the image even more, depending on your situation. So if your game is running at your monitor's base refresh rate, it could be 60, it could be 120, 1440, like 144 or 240 or 500, right? If the game is not matching that, then there's ways to eliminate screen tearing and a bunch of other problems that come with screen problems. So motion blur comes in handy as a tool rather than you know, like a must-have feature. You know, streamers turn it off when you're streaming because it messes up makes the stream look like a recording to look blurry. But well, when you're playing right on your own, you know, which is what this video is intended for, you know, motion blur comes very handy. So this 40 FPS image here, if I was playing this on if I play this game in 40 FPS with no motion blur, you're gonna be getting screen tears everywhere. But if you turn on motion blur, it helps with hiding the screen tear, which is why they have it. You know, we might not like it, but it's there. And as you can see, everything is on epic. I'm not going to go through all these settings today, but the point of this is to show you how to think about utilizing, you know, your video game to make it look the best you can get it. So yeah, so these are the settings. Let's go back into the game. Also, turn off Vsync. Vsync is only good if your game is moving above your monitor's base refresh rate. So I'm gonna bring up the game here with sound, and I'm gonna turn on my camera for this. All right, so we're in the game. And turn this on. But yeah, so this is Mafia, and I'm playing on the controller because I would say it's a controller game. You know, when you pull out any weapons, you know, like you can't. There's lots of sway in the game, so it doesn't really matter if you use a mouse and keyboard or not. So we're definitely getting very low FPS, because then again, like I said, 4070 I would say is pretty behind when it comes to like games of this detail, I guess. You know, also Unreal Engine 5's fault, but so let's say if I lean my chair back, right, like this is not so bad. You You know what I mean? Technically, like, if you think about it, every movie you watch, most movies are 24 FPS. Like, your fucking anime is pretty much locked at like 15 FPS. I could be wrong about that, right? I mean, the most you get out of like maybe in an IMAX movie is like 60, if it even gets that far. Some of them are just hard locked at 30. So in reality, if you look at your computer and you're getting 30 frames or 35, you're not losing anything. But if you're playing a game like Doom that requires precision aiming and fast reflexes and NVIDIA reflex, you know, that's when you need high FPS. But in this type of game is what I call a movie game. You know what I mean? You're playing it for it to be for you're playing it as a movie experience. So there's nothing to worry about when you're getting a low frame rate, because you know it depends on the type of game, right? You're not competing with anybody, so why do you need that much frame rate if you don't have a 4090 or 5090, right? If you're not willing to drop $2,000 for a graphics card or $5,000 for a computer setup, you know, because if you think about it, you know, you're getting like 3 times the PS5 experience, right? About 2 or 3 times like the power of a PlayStation 5, right? Like in terms of like how good it looks, you know, like the PlayStation 5 would not be able to run this game in this quality. You know, it's not possible. You know, I mean, the PlayStation at this quality setting right now, thanks to DLSS, thanks to motion blur, right? It'll be probably running at 10 FPS or 5. Right? It won't look this good. This is sharp, even with motion blur on. You know, motion blur really matters if you have more pixels on the screen. The more pixels you have and the more sharpness you have on the screen, the less motion blur would matter. So technically, motion blur is almost like free anti-aliasing in motion. Some games do it poorly, some games do it better. I'll say Doom does it the best, but you know, this is Mafia. So that Mudahar video, I was kind of disappointed the way he handled the conversation of Unreal Engine 5. I like the tech parts he mentioned, which is you know, when he was going into the how Unreal Engine 5 handles caching, shader caching, and all that. But you know, I feel like sometimes it's good to point out the good, but I mean, sorry, it's good to point out the bad, but it's also good while you're pointing out the bad, point out the good, so that way people can still have fun rather than just focusing on the dramatic aspect of gaming today and farming on people's emotions. Because I feel like that's what a lot of people do. You know, they try to take too hard of a take and forget to create a fun experience for people. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you checking it out. This is my first time making this type of video, so appreciate you watching it. You have a good night or good day, and thank you.